So I'm very happy to congratulate you with this beautiful day of Janmashtami, which is a very special day. The results of any spiritual practice which are being done in this day magnify many folds. Because according to the understanding of Vedic astrology, the special days, especially the days of appearances of some Krishna avatars, in this world, they are not different from Krishna himself. By doing some devotional service on those particular tithis, especially if the constellations are also completely aligned with this particular tithi, we get tremendous benefit because we come directly in contact with Krishna. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur explains that following particular days and observing certain rituals and certain vows on a particular days is the way of engaging time in the service of the Lord. The time itself, the energy of the time, the power of the time is helping us to come closer to the Lord if we do everything properly. And of course, we know that the proper observance of such days is fasting. And fasting is called upavas in Sanskrit, which basically does not mean that you starve yourself to death. Fasting means being closer to God. Literally, it means upavas, sitting close to God. So fasting means you free yourself as much as possible from the ordinary material activities, sleeping, and what else is there? Eating, sleeping, and of course mating and defending. You free yourself from this activity and try to bring your consciousness closer to God. And for that, speaking about God from the scriptures, speaking about Krishna is the most important element. Because by speaking about him, by the sound vibration of Harikatha or Krishna Katha, we are supposed to be transported into another realm. That's the mystery or the beauty of Krishna Katha. If Krishna Katha is performed properly, it's not just ordinary talk. There is some transcendental potency, and as Shukadeva Goswami himself says that Krishna Katha like Ganga. Ganga has a tremendous purifying effect, tremendous purifying power. So much so that even if somebody just sees Ganga, or even if somebody just says the word Ganga, he is already purified. Believe it or not. You may not notice the effect of purification immediately because we are quite dull-headed. You know, those who are sensitive, they feel this purification immediately. But those who are a little dull-headed, they may need some stronger measures for purification, like some good portion of sufferings or something like this. But again, Ganga has this tremendous effect. Whoever takes bath in Ganga, whoever remembers about Ganga, whoever sees Ganga, how she's flowing gracefully from Himalayas to the plains, and how she's basically purifying everything on her way, or even whoever pronounces the name Ganga, he's being purified. So Shukadeva Goswami says that in a similar way, whoever speaks Katha, whoever listens Katha, and whoever just happens to be there, passing by the Katha is going on, and I believe there will be some passerbys in this Katha as well. They three are being purified. But guess what? Somebody who speaks is purified to the utmost extent. Because he has to be attentive while speaking, you know. When you're sitting and listening, you don't have to be attentive. Your mind may be in Ganga or somewhere else, not in the Katha. But the full effect of purification by listening Krishna Katha takes place if you are attentively present, and the listener, attentive listener, who is listening with faith and reverence to what is being spoken, is definitely being purified. And I personally have this experience, and I'm sure every one of you has this experience, that when you come and you sit and you have problems, anxieties, troubles in your mind, in your life, and then you start speaking Krishna Katha, and somehow or other everything disappears. If Katha really takes place. So this is actually how Lord Brahma in Brahma Samhita glorifies Krishna. Anyway, in this verse, he says that Smaranamupetis, whoever is recollecting the beautiful leelas of Krishna, he, in his mind, the Lord himself is freeing him from this material existence. Anyway, maybe we will remember this beautiful verse a little later. So again, after this introduction, let's first hear what Sri Shukadev Goswami speaks about this occasion. And I will read one verse from the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam from the 2nd chapter, or maybe two verses. Two very important verses from the 2nd chapter of the 10th canto, which is called Prayers by the Demigods. So let's chant together 16th verse. Bhagavān api Viśvātmā bhaktānām abhayam-karaḥ āviveśa aṁśa-bhāgena manaḥ ānakadundubheḥ bhagavān api Viśvātmā bhagavān api Viśvātmā bhaktānām abhayam-karaḥ bhaktānām abhayam-karaḥ āviveśāṁśa-bhāgena āviveśāṁśa-bhāgena manaḥ ānakadundubheḥ manaḥ ānakadundubheḥ Bhagavān, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Api, also, Viśvātmā, the Supersoul of all living entities. Bhaktānām, of his devotees. Abhayam-karaḥ, always killing the causes of fear. Āviveśa, entered. Aṁśa-bhāgena, with all of his potential opulences. ṣaḍ-aiśvarya-pūrṇa, manaḥ, in the mind. ānakadundubheḥ, of Vasudeva. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhakti Vijnana Swami Prabhupada. Thus the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Supersoul of all living entities, and who vanquishes all the fear of his devotees, entered the mind of Vasudeva in full opulence. Purport. The word Viśvātmā refers to one who is situated in everyone's heart. Ishvarah sarva-bhūtānāṁ hṛd-deśe Arjuna tishtati. Another meaning of Viśvātmā is the only lovable object for everyone. Because of forgetfulness of this object, people are suffering in this material world. But if one fortunately revives his old consciousness of loving Krishna and connects with Viśvātmā, one becomes perfect. The Lord is described in the third canto of Śrīmad Bhagavatam as follows: Paravaresho mahad-aṁśa-yukto hyajjo pijato bhagavān yathagnihi. There is one more word, very important word, which I will explain, which is missing here. Although unborn, he is Ajja. He is Ajja api. Even though he is unborn, the Lord, the master of everything, Para-vara Ishu. He is the master of this material world, and he is the master of the transcendental world beyond this world. Para-avara Ishaha. The Lord and master of everything appears like a born child by entering the mind of the devotee. And very important word, Yathagni. He is like fire. The Lord is already there within the mind. This is important. He is already there. And consequently, it is not astonishing for him to appear as if born from a devotee's body. The word āviveśa signifies that the Lord appears within the mind of Vasudeva. Literally, he entered āviveśa. There was no need for a discharge of semen. It is the opinion of Śrīpada Śrīdhara Swami and Śrīla Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakur. And the Vaiṣṇava-toṣaṇī, Śrīla Sanātana Gosvāmī, says that consciousness was awakened within the mind of Vasudeva. Śrīla Vīrarāghava Ācārya also says that Vasudeva was one of the demigods, and within his mind the Supreme Personality of Godhead appeared as an awakening of consciousness. And I will also read this next verse, which is very beautiful and important. I will skip Sanskrit. While carrying the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead within the core of his heart, Vasudeva bore the Lord transcendentally illuminating effulgence, and thus he became as bright as the sun. He was therefore very difficult to see or approach through sensory perceptions. Indeed, he was unapproachable and unperceivable even for such formidable men as Kamsa. Not only for Kamsa, but for all living entities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The word Dhamma is significant. And Dhamma refers to the place where the Supreme Personality of Godhead resides. In the beginning of Śrīmad Bhagavatam it is said, Dhamna svena sada nirasta kukakam satyam param dhimahi. In the abode of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, there is no influence of material energy. Dhamna svena sada nirasta kukakam. Any place where the Supreme Personality of Godhead is present by his name, form, qualities, and paraphernalia, immediately becomes a Dhamma. For example, we speak of Vrindavana Dhamma, Dvaraka Dhamma, Mathura Dhamma, Gita-Nagari Dhamma. because in these places the name, fame, qualities and paraphernalia of the Supreme Godhead are always present. Similarly, if one is empowered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to do something, the core of his heart becomes a Dhamma. And thus, one becomes so extraordinarily powerful that not only his enemies, but also people in general are astonished to observe his activities. Because he is unapproachable, his enemies are simply struck with wonder, as explained here by the words Durasado ati durdharashaha. The word Paurusham Dhamma has been explained by various acharyas. Śrīla Vīrarāghava Ācārya says that these words refer to the effulgence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vijaya Tirtha says that they signify Vishnu Tejas, and Shukadeva says Bhagavat Svarupa. This is different Shukadeva, one of the commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam. Sri Vaiṣṇava-toṣaṇī of Sanātana Gosvami says that these words indicate the influence of the Supreme Lord's effulgence, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that they simply they signify the appearance of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Okay. Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Deshitarine Vanchakalpatarubhescha Kripa Sindhubhe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasudeva Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Yantah pravishya mama vachim imam prasuptam sanjivayatya kila shakti darasvadam nanyam shahasta charana shravanat vagadim pranannamo bhagavate purushaya tubhyam svasyastu vishvasya kalak prasidatam dayantu bhutani shivam mithodiyam anasya-bhadram vajatata dokshaje aveshyatam no matirapyahaitu ki. So here the immaculate conception of Devaki is being described. In the next verse, it will be exactly described how Sri Krishna, who entered the mind of Vasudeva in the verses which we read, from his mind is being transported into the mind of Devaki, and from the mind of Devaki he goes to her heart and ultimately to her womb. We all know that religious people, they like to speak about immaculate conceptions. But here is the real process of immaculate conception is being described in a very universal terms. And ultimately, if we want to celebrate Janmashtami in the real sense of this word, we have to conceive the Lord previously, and on this day happily give birth to the Lord. So here is the mechanism how we can become intimately related with the Lord, as much as Vasudeva and Devaki became intimately related with him through their devotional service. This mechanism, very beautiful mechanism, which we have to understand very clearly, is described by Krishna himself in the 11th canto of Śrīmad Bhagavatam. And this is a universal mechanism. It works every time when the Lord comes. Whether he comes in his full-fledged form, as it is said here, ṣaḍ-aiśvarya-pūrṇa, whether he comes in his avatar and manifests himself in his special abode, his Dhamma, or whether he comes to us in some way or another, or manifests himself for us in a particular form. Sometimes the Lord becomes visible to everyone. When the Lord becomes visible to everyone, it is called avatar. Sarve pashyantu. Everyone can see me when this desire, when this sankalpa comes to the Lord's heart. I want to become visible to everyone. This is called avatar, and then the Lord becomes visible. But then in our individual practice, he also manifests himself. And this manifestation has exactly the same mechanism as his manifestation in his full-fledged form as Bhagavan. As avatar, when he comes as Krishna, as Rama, or as Varaha, or Vamana Dev, or any other incarnation. So he himself, please listen very carefully, because this is very important and very beautiful and very scientific process which is described in the 11th canto of Śrīmad Bhagavatam. The Lord Sri Bhagavan Uvacha, he himself says, Saesha Jiva Vivara Prasutihi. This Jiva, Krishna himself calls himself, he speaks about himself in the third person, Saesha Jiva. This Jiva, Jiva in this particular case does not mean individual soul. Jiva in this particular case means the Lord himself, who enlivens everyone, who is the source of life. He is Jiva. Because of him, this world is full of life. Because of him, we are alive. Only because he is present in one way or another. As soon as he is not present, as soon as he abandons us, we will become dead. We are already as if dead, because of forgetfulness of him. So he himself calls himself, I am this living force which is enlivening everything and everyone. Saesha Jiva Vivara Prasutihi. And I come into the body of the living entity, or I come in this world. Pranena Gashena Guham Pravishtaha. First he comes, and then Manomayam Sukshmam Upetya Rupam Matrasvara Varna Iti Stavishtaha. Very beautiful, very interesting concept. He says that initially, my initial appearance in this world, I am appearing as the sound vibration. It doesn't matter whether we are talking about the avatar of the Lord, great avatar of the Lord, or we are talking about his appearance in our individual life. The first Lord comes as the sound vibration, and when he manifests himself fully as the sound vibration, he takes over our prana. This is very clearly said here. Saesha Jiva Vivara Prasutihi Pranena Goshena Guham Pravishtaha. When the sound vibration, the meaning, the scientific meaning and the relevant meaning for us of this statement is that when the sound vibration of the holy name becomes so powerful and so prominently manifested within our life, that it takes over our prana. When our prana becomes one with the sound of the holy name. Like there is a beautiful story that once there was a god brother of Srila Prabhupada, Kinchana Krishna Das Babaji Maharaj. And he was famous in all Gaudiya Math for his chanting of the holy name, and he was always chanting, constantly chanting, non-stop. So once he got a little sick, and they called an Ayurvedic doctor, and Ayurvedic doctor started taking his pulse to make a diagnosis, Ayurvedic doctors do. And for a long time he was taking and reading his pulse, and then he looked at the people who were taking care of Babaji Maharaj, and he said, there is no water, there is no pita, there is no kapha, there is only Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. There is nothing else in his pulse. Only this. So this is exactly what Krishna says here. When the holy name, when the vibration of the holy name takes over our pran, taking over means becomes one with the pran, becomes unified with the pran. When we start breathing the holy name, when the holy name is regulating all our activities according to the vibrations and the rhythm of the holy name, when this happens, then this is the first stage of manifestation of the Lord. When this happens in our life, the presence of the Lord becomes very prominent. And then from that, Pranana Goshena, first he comes as a Ghosh. Ghosh means vibration, with the prana. So I was talking about this a little bit yesterday. And then he said, Guham pravishtaha manomayam sukshmam upetya rupam. Then after this, practically immediately or very soon, very quickly after that, the Lord, Guham pravishtaha, he enters into our heart, manomayam sukshmam upetya rupam. In the subtle form, he comes within our mind. So from the sound vibration, which becomes one with the breeze of our life, with prana, he enters our heart and enters our mind in a subtle form. It basically means that from the sound, we can see the manifestation of the Lord within the heart or within the mind. Sometimes people, they try to meditate on the Supreme Lord, they sit and they try to do this Buddhistic style of meditation, and they just start imagining the Lord and, you know, this lila or that lila, and, you know, sometimes they even smile, sometimes they snore as a result of this meditation. This is not meditation. This is mockery. This is a completely wrong approach, because we are trying to force the Supreme Lord to enter our mind. He can enter our mind only himself according to his sweet will when he wants it. And he will want it. He will enter the mind and the heart very easily, spontaneously, on his own, very happily, when the mind and the heart are prepared for this. And to prepare the mind and the heart for this, you first have to unify your prana with the sound vibration of the holy name. So when this happens, after that, in his sukshma rupam, you know, sukshma rupam of the Lord, the subtle form of the Lord, is not the mental form. When we are imagining something, it's not sukshma rupa of the Lord. It's just very gross imagination, kalpana. We just, you know, this is not the Lord. This is a caricature of the Lord. This is some, you know, some mockery of the Lord. The Lord can only come himself by his own sweet will when the prana becomes purified, when the heart becomes purified, because our prana is purified. And prana is purified because of the sound vibration of the holy name. So nothing else we have to do. Only chant the holy name sincerely with the heart, trying to unify prana with the holy name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare. But this is not the most amazing. The most amazing is the third stage of manifestation. First, the Lord manifests as the vibration of the holy name in our prana, becoming unified with prana. Then he manifests himself, his lila, or his form, or his qualities within our mind. Exactly like this. First the name, and then his rupa, guna, and lila. And then it is said here, matrasvara varna eti stavishtaha. And then he takes gross form. Gross form means visible form. Gross form, the Lord is never gross. He is the most sukshmas, the most subtle of anything subtle. But gross form means he becomes visible outside. This is actually the dynamic which many great saints, experience themselves. This is not just theory. This is the explanation of the Lord himself, how he comes. He comes first as a sound vibration, then he takes over our heart. First he takes over our prana, then he takes over our heart, and then he comes to us and he sits and he says, hello, I'm here. You called me, Haribol. So he comes in one form and another, as a spurti, as some vision, or in a very tangible form, visible to our eyes. This is how the Lord comes, and as I said, this is the mechanism of his arrival, of his coming into this world, whether he comes as Krishna himself, or whether he comes individually to us in our personal spiritual experience. So, and this is exactly what is being explained here. It is explained that after long struggle, a long spiritual practice, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of sufferings which Vasudeva or Ānakadundubheḥ underwent for the sake of the Lord. Ultimately, the Lord, whom he tried to remember in the form of his holy name, entered his mind. And it is explained here in the second verse, the Lord, Viśvātmā, he's already everywhere. He's Viśvātmā. Viśvātmā means that he's in the heart of every living entity. He's already in our heart. Why it is said that he entered? This entrance of the Lord, whether he is entering in this world or he is entering within our mind or within our heart, is that his presence becomes very tangibly felt within our existence. It's one thing to have some idea or some concept that the Lord is there, yeah, maybe he's in my heart. But usually we don't feel that he's in the heart. Usually we feel that, somebody else is in the heart or something else is in the heart. It's a theory. hṛd-deśe Arjuna tishtati. Śrīla Prabhupada quotes this verse, Ishvara sarva-bhūtānāṁ. But entering means we feel it. We understand it unmistakably. Not believe in it, but feel it, understand it. And, for that, you have to pay the price. Basically, the whole description of the previous verses, beginning from the very beginning of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, is the description of what Vasudeva Maharaj has to go through and what are his qualities. You know, it's not a cheap thing that the Lord enters into your mind. It's a very amazing event, and to stress this, Shukadeva Goswami, who sees this, he says that when this happened, Vasudeva Maharaj became amazingly brilliant. So brilliant that people couldn't see him. You know, we know that when the sun is very bright, it blinds us. So exactly the same thing happened because the Lord himself personally, with all his energies, entered the mind of Vasudeva Maharaj. He became unapproachable, and all the fear went away. All the fear dissipated. It's very, very important description which is relevant to us when this miracle will happen to us, and hopefully it will happen to us at one point of our spiritual practice. You know, the presence of the Lord, the first immediate presence of the Lord is felt by complete absence of fear. I am completely fearless. I am completely peaceful. And externally it manifests that we become brilliant. You know, you've been to museums, and all the, you know, artists, they depict all the saintly persons with some effulgence around them. Whether the effulgence was there or not was not clear, but the effulgence is supposed to be there. The effulgence, the word effulgence in Sanskrit is dhamma. Śrīla Prabhupada explains in the second purport that when the Lord enters, he can only enter dhamma. Dhamma means home, house. He can only enter his own home, his own house, his own place. And when he enters, this place where he enters becomes brightly effulgent, becomes very effulgent. And this is exactly what is being explained. So, I mean, when the Lord will enter your heart, don't be surprised that people will not even see you, because you will just blind them by your effulgence. It is said that even Kamsa was bewildered. Even Kamsa, his enemy, was completely bewildered. But, you know, it would be nice if this would happen in the very beginning, but we know that actually before it happened, Vasudeva Maharaj had to go through hell, basically. You know, on the day of his wedding, we all know the story, so I will not go into details of this story. I will try to explain with some details another story which is not as well known as this one. But we know that the whole story starts on the wedding day, which is supposed to be a very joyful occasion, and you know, you are completely enamored by your bride, who is very beautiful. Devaki was very beautiful, and he is the beautiful young prince, and she is the beautiful young princess. And this is just, you know, usually all the fairy tales, they end at this point. But the fairy tale about Krishna starts with this point, to explain that, you know, this is not the end, this is the beginning of troubles. So they are driving in this beautiful chariot, and Kamsa is, of course, there as the driver. And then, of course, the Akashvani, the voice from the sky tells, Kamsa, you fool. How you can be so dull-headed, my dear Kamsa, that you are just driving your own death. And the eighth child of Devaki will kill you. And we know, you know, that Kamsa immediately changes his mind, immediately changes his mood, and after being the very obedient and joyful chariot driver, he becomes a murderer. He takes his sword and he wants to kill Devaki. And by all means, Vasudeva is trying to, convince him not to do it. But can you imagine how much stress he underwent, he and Devaki? At least he was able to speak, trying to convince, and Devaki was just, sitting there with the sword of Kamsa at her throat. It's a very stressful wedding day. So that was the beginning of the happy marriage. And then the rest of the happy marriage they basically spent in a prison house of Kamsa Maharaj, being threatened and tortured. And, every child which was born was killed in front of their eyes. Because we know this story and because we are a little, not so sensitive, we are not so much impressed by this. But if we try to imagine, little baby whom you just gave the birth, whom you were waiting for 9 months, and then your brother comes, takes this baby, swirls him, and smashes his head on the stone. And this is what Vasudeva and Devaki were the witnesses. They went through this for many years. For at least 8 consecutive years, they were sitting there in this prison cell of Kamsa. And also, this is all very significant because it also has something to do with us. It's not only the story which took place 5,000 years back. This story is also depicting the difficulties which we have to pay, the price which we have to pay. It may not be so drastic, but we all know that to purify our heart, we have to go through some difficulties. Why? Because we are attached to the dirt which is there in the heart. We don't want to let it go. We are very much attached to the dirt within our heart because it's our dirt. And we like everything which belongs to us. Whatever is intimately related with us is very dear to us. So all the problems which we have are very difficult to part with because they are part of us. And it's very difficult for us to even imagine how we will live without these anarthas, without all these difficulties. So that's why when we go this route, when we really want to go spiritual life, we have to be prepared that the difficulties will be there. But this is the purifying difficulties. This is the difficulties which will help us to ultimately receive the Lord, because the Lord will never come to the place which is not His own abode. First, we have to make our heart His own abode. We have to make it completely clean. And for that, preliminary conditions are also there. It's very interesting that here Maharaja Vasudeva is called Ānakadundubheḥ. Ānakadundubheḥ is another name of Vasudeva Maharaj, which basically means that when he was born, the demigods were rejoicing and they were playing all the musical instruments, especially these big drums. Anaka is a big drum. They were banging. So when he was born, the demigods were rejoicing because a very rare soul appeared in this world. And it is explained what is the rare, unique quality of Vasudeva Maharaj, which is again important for us, because it also speaks something about us, what what is the initial quality which we must have if we want to become successful in our spiritual life. The unique quality of Vasudeva Maharaj, which was well known, which was famous all over the world, which was so famous that even Kamsa, heinous demon, believed him and accepted his proposal. The quality which, unique quality which Vasudeva Maharaj had and by which he became famous was his truthfulness. He was completely, totally honest person. He was very sincere. This is a very important lesson for us. If we want to become successful in our spiritual life, the initial condition is sincerity. Honesty, lack of desire to hide our problems. The same thing is exemplified by Arjuna. The very word Arjuna means he's straightforward. It is said that the most important quality of Vaishnava is Sharalata. Sharalata means simplicity. Simplicity means honesty. Honesty means straightforwardness. I'm not trying to hide my problems. I'm open about this. I'm trying to find a solution to my problems. That's why Arjuna is so honestly manifesting his weakness in the first chapter of Bhagavad Gita. And that's exactly what is being hinted here when Vasudeva Maharaj is called Ānakadundubheḥ. He reached to the stage of spiritual development when the Lord himself enters his heart and becomes brilliantly present within his heart and within his mind, because he's so sincere and he's so honest. So, very important thing. That's why he is successful here. Anyway, so let's go according to the storyline a little bit about this whole thing, because we are celebrating this very special day. So, first few words about this purity of the heart of Vasudeva, which is necessary condition for us to experience the presence of the Lord. In the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is very important, before we came to before we'll start speaking about the stories, let's talk a little bit philosophy preliminarily. We have to become 10% pure. This is a bad news. Bad news on a very good day. But the good news is that we can become 10% pure. The only condition for this is our desire, nothing else. The Lord himself will help us to purify our heart. So, the very word Vasudeva means completely pure. The very word Vasudeva means that he is 10% pure, and this is explained in the fourth canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, where it is said, Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam, that Vishuddha Sattva, the pure Sattva, the spiritual Sattva, the Sattva without any contamination of material modes of nature, without any contamination of Tamagun or Rajagun, is called Vasudeva. So the word Vasudeva means totally pure without any tinge of material contamination. Sattvam Vishuddham Vasudeva Shabditam. And next line, Lord Shiva speaks this verse, explaining his own experience. The next line he says, Yatiyate tatra puman apavritah. In this stage, puman means Purusha. Purusha means the Supreme Lord. yad iyate pumana pavritah. And this stage of complete purity, the Lord becomes uncovered. The Lord, which is covered now, completely covered from the eyes of ignorant people of this world, the Lord, which is somewhat covered from sadhakas, devotees who are not yet perfect, who more clearly can feel the presence of the Lord, but still they don't see Him directly. This Lord becomes completely uncovered when the heart becomes purified. So that's the condition. The heart has to become sattvam vishuddham, has to become the abode of Vishuddha Sattva. And this Vishuddha Sattva is a very interesting concept. It's a very interesting concept, yeah, which is explained by Śrīla Jiva Goswami in Bhagavad Sandarbha. First of all, he explains why Vishuddha Sattva, the complete transcendental situation. Vishuddha Sattva basically means the realm or completely transcendental situation which we can reach, in which the Lord becomes visible. And first he explains why Vishuddha Sattva is called Sattva, because it's easy to mix Vishuddha Sattva with ordinary Sattva, and sometimes people make this mistake. So the question which he asks, why this completely transcendental state is called practically by the same name as Sattva Guna of this world. Is it not bewildering? And he answers, no, it's not bewildering. There is a very great significance and very practical way. He says that Vishuddha Sattva is the spiritual cognitive state, the state of spiritual cognition, the state in which spiritual awareness is awakened within our heart, the ability, the faculty of seeing spiritual reality becomes prominent within our heart. But he says that material sattva, this Vishuddha Sattva or Shuddha Sattva, is called Sattva because material Sattva has similar qualities. That's material Sattva, sattvic element of this material world, also reveals to us something which is not visible when we are in Tamagun and Rajagun. So basically the transition from the material state to the spiritual state goes through this material sattva. Material sattva is very important. It reveals to us something. Lord Krishna himself explains this in Bhagavad Gita, that sattvat sanjayate jnanam. From sattva, Gyan is being born. Gyan means spiritual knowledge. The spiritual knowledge is the product of sattva gun. And when it's material sattva, then the spiritual knowledge or the knowledge of the presence or existence of the God comes to us as an intuition. The sattvic people, people who cultivate sattva, they intuitively feel there is God. They don't have direct experience of the Lord. But the intuition is there. There must be somebody, you know, otherwise who is always watching me from behind? Especially when I'm trying to hide something. You know, we have sometimes this strange feeling, you know, when we're trying to hide something, and then from within somebody tells us, you know, you may hide it, but not from me, my dear sir. I know what you are doing. Don't do this, it's not good. So sattva gun, and you know, many people don't have this intuition. Why? Because they are totally rajasic and tamasic. So Vishuddha Sattva is the revealing element. Material Sattva also reveals us something which is not visible. Pure Sattva reveals to us God. Yate teta trapumana pavritaha. Because of this Vishuddha Sattva, because of this completely spiritual situation, the Lord becomes visible within our heart. And very beautifully, please listen, I understand it's a little difficult philosophy, but Śrīla Jiva Goswami explains the nature of this Vishuddha Sattva in a very beautiful way. First of all, it's Vishuddha. Vishuddha means there's no tinge. Material Sattva is always contaminated by some tinges of lower modes of material nature, so there is no such thing as pure Sattva in this material world. Vishuddha Sattva, always transcendental, always spiritual. And he says, it's Sattva. Sattva means the being. Sattva means the existence. But he says, because it's Vishuddha Sattva, very beautiful. Please listen, you will be rewarded by this concept. He says that the essence of being is cognition. The essence, the sar of being, of the existence, is cognition. You know, of course, there are many things in this world which don't have any cognition, don't have any consciousness. But you cannot really, in the full sense of the word, say that they exist. The essence of existence is awareness. The consciousness is the essence of existence. And then he says that the essence of consciousness, what is the essence of consciousness? The essence of existence is awareness, consciousness. What is the essence of consciousness? Please guess. No. What is the essence, the core nature of the consciousness? The core nature of existence is consciousness, because the consciousness is the background of existence. Even this dull material world cannot exist without consciousness behind it. So the consciousness is behind the existence. The consciousness must be behind the existence of this world. What is behind the consciousness? What is the essence of consciousness? Huh? Close, Sachitananda, Sat and Chitananda. Ananda is the essence of consciousness. The bliss is the essence of consciousness. So he says it's very interesting concept. Sat Chitananda, then they're hierarchically not on the same level. Ananda is higher than Chit, consciousness. Consciousness is higher than being, existence. So Ananda is the essence of it, and this Vishuddha Sattva is the condition which sometimes manifests the existence. It is said that when the Samvit portion of Lord's energy is present in this condition of Vishuddha Sattva, it manifests Adhara Shakti. Adhara Shakti basically means the energy which upholds everything, the energy of the existence. So, you know, this Vishuddha Sattva can manifest the world, the transcendental world, the transcendental Dham, the transcendental abode of the Lord. It is, Jiva Goswami says, when the Samvit potency of the Lord is predominant in Vishuddha Sattva, then you have Atmagyan. Basically, it means when your heart is purified, when by the spiritual practice, by the spiritual process, you purified your existence and you achieved some sort of Vishuddha Sattva condition, then you become very stable, because, you know, that's why saintly people, sometimes they live very long time. They may not be fully realized in a spiritual bliss, but because this existence potency is present, they may live very long time. Like there are yogis who are living for 400, 500, 700, 1,000 years. Sometimes they, you know, they live even in the material body. Why? Because of this Vishuddha Sattva. Vishuddha Sattva can give you amazing resilience and longevity and whatever is. Then it is said when the chit potency or samvit potency is predominant in Vishuddha Sattva, you can have Atmagyan. You understand your soul. You understand the nature of your soul. You know your Svarup. You know who you are. It is said when the Atmavidya, when the bliss potency is more present in this condition of Vishuddha Sattva, then bhakti or devotion, Guhya Vidya appears. But when all three conditions are there, please listen, when all three are there, when the existence, consciousness and bliss are equally prominent, what will happen? What will appear at this point? Śrīla Jiva Goswami says, this is the point when Krishna himself appears. So, again, please, by looking at your gloomy faces, I can understand that, you know, it's too late for such high philosophy. But it's a very interesting concept. Ultimately, Śrīla Jiva Goswami explains that you can reach very pure state of your existence. You can reach transcendental state of your existence. But it's not a guarantee that you will see the Lord at this stage of life. Not necessarily. You may live very long life. You may be very stable, very peaceful. You may reach this, you know, because you are in contact with the energy of stability, Adhara Shakti of the Lord. You may, you know, understand the nature of your soul perfectly well. Understand you are not this body and know all these intricacies of the soul. You may even have very great devotion, but only when all these three conditions are together, then the Lord manifests himself. Then Janmashtami takes place. Janmashtami is this moment where in the condition of Shuddha Sattva, complete total purity of the heart, we are expecting the Lord to come, and the Lord makes his appearance by his own sweet will. What we see in the beginning of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami, in a very beautiful and philosophical, esoteric way, is explaining how the Lord makes its appearance in this world. He explains the universal laws which govern his appearance in this world. And one is example of Vasudeva, how he becomes totally effulgent after going through all these problems and being in a prison cell of Kamsa for a long time, how the fear which is signified by Kamsa ultimately purifies his heart completely. It is explained by Srila Prabhupada in one of the purports. Srila Prabhupada repeats what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says, and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur himself repeats some other commentators of Srimad Bhagavatam who say that Kamsa is the fear personified. Yeah, he is a fearful demon, but he serves a very significant purpose because of Kamsa, Vasudeva and Devaki were able to conceive the Lord. How? Because Kamsa as Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur and Srila Prabhupada explain in the purports in connection with Balaram appearance, Kamsa is the fear of material existence. When the human being becomes somewhat sattvic and understands the real miserable nature of this world and of this material existence, and become fearful of entering again into this place, which is dukkhalayam ashashvatam, going through the miseries of, you know, being in the womb of mother, going through all this, you know, difficult birth process and all the diseases and old age and death again. When one becomes fearful of material existence, he becomes very serious about his spiritual life. Unless we really understand what a precarious condition we are in, what difficult condition we are in, we will never become serious. If we still have some hope, I will become, one day I will become happy, you know, I fulfill all my desires and I'll become so happy, you know. The problem is that by that time you will be 85 years old and, you know, good for nothing. You know, unless the asha, the hope for material happiness is completely dead within our heart, and the fear of material existence enter within our heart, we will never become serious about spiritual life. We will do spiritual practice in case it works. Something like this. Who knows? I'm not sure, but anyway, maybe it will work out at the end of the day. We'll do it, you know, we all know this driving japa. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama. This is not what Vasudeva Maharaj was practicing. He was very serious. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. The prison cell of Kamsa signifies the condition of the mind of somebody who understood the seriousness of our situation in this material world. And the fear of material existence puts us in this prison. That somebody who is very clearly understanding the problem of this material world, he puts himself into the prison. You know, like, you know, what is the prison we put ourselves? This prison is called Gita-Nagari, right? You know, or we come to some monastery or ashram. We start practicing celibacy. This is prison. You know, if you tell people outside that I'm a monk, they say, okay, good luck. You know, this is the prison. The rules and regulations of spiritual life is the prison. Because the rules and regulations say you don't go beyond this point. Within this point, no illicit sex, only sex within marriage. So within this point, within this, you know, borders, you can do something. Beyond this, you cannot do. That's prison. This is what prison means. So this is what being explained, and the fear is very important because the fear is the stimuli, is the instigating factor for us to do spiritual practice in the beginning. It is said that Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, what is the pravriti, what is the impetus to perform sadhana bhakti, Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, that's the fear. I don't want to waste my time. I don't want to be born again. I don't want to come again in this boring place where there are such long lectures. I want complete bliss, so which is spiritual existence. So the situation of Vasudeva Maharaj, with his quality of complete sincerity, honesty, complete absence of desire to hide his problems, this is all conditions of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. Which become successful, and when this process becomes successful, one becomes completely effulgent, and the Supreme Lord comes to our mind, and ultimately he comes within his four-handed form and says, "You called for me, I am here for you." But there is another process, luckily for us. And the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam explains these two processes. One is the difficult process of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, which is compared with the prison cell of Kamsa, which is very important to have this fear and everything else. And that's kind of initial stages of our bhakti. But then we know, that Krishna ultimately does not come to Vasudeva Maharaj. He comes to Vasudeva Maharaj for how long? Just few minutes. He comes, he says, for 8 years, Vasudeva Maharaj was waiting for this appearance. He even lied to Kamsa, completely against his nature. He went through immense miseries to have Krishna as his son. Krishna comes to his son, he says, yes, I appreciate your endeavors. Very good, very good. Please bring me to Nanda Maharaj. He basically says, I don't belong to here. I don't belong to this prison cell. I belong to the land of complete freedom. And this land of complete freedom is called Gokul, Mahavan, Vrindavan, Brihadvan, whatever you call it. It's the land of complete bliss and happiness. And our acharyas, they explain that ultimately we should not be in the prison cell of Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. We should not do our spiritual practice from this point to this point, and not more than this. Sometimes people, they give the vows to me, and they say, my dear such and such, I vow to chant 16 rounds of Hare Krishna mantra every day. And I usually ask at this point, and if you by chance chanted 17 rounds, you will break your vow. Because you just vowed to me that you will chant 16 rounds and not more. So, this is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti. This is Vaidhi sadhana bhakti, but at one point, and it's necessary. Why it is necessary? Because we are undisciplined. By nature, the spirit soul in this material world becomes undisciplined. Our attachments are become completely distorted. We become attached to drugs, to illicit sex, to all kinds of stuff. So initially, we need some period of discipline. And for that, we need to put ourselves into the prison cell of rules and regulations. But Krishna comes to us and says, I don't want to stay here. Bring me somewhere else. Somewhere where there is no rules and regulations. Krishna, believe it or not, does not like rules and regulations. He likes to steal. He likes to do some mischief. He likes to do all kinds of, and he instigates his devotees to do the same. He tells Yudhishthira Maharaj, you please lie, and I will look how it will work. He's teasing his devotees. He is a very peculiar person. He is not this four-handed Vishnu who is standing there and saying, yeah, everything is good. He says, no, bring me to Vrindavan. So basically, this 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam first explain how Krishna on this day appears in Mathura, in the prison cell of Kamsa, in the heart of Vasudeva Maharaj first, and then goes to the heart of Devaki, and then appears externally from their heart. But then immediately we're being transported together with Krishna into the land of Gokula, when Nanda Maharaj is making an amazing festival, celebration of Krishna's appearance. And he is not in the prison cell, and he is not completely regulated by all these strict rules and everything else. He is governed by love. So the little story which I want to tell, again, the story which is not so well known, but which is explained by Srila Jiva Goswami in Gopal Champu, is how Krishna appeared in Vraj. From this description of Srimad Bhagavatam given by Shukadeva Goswami, it appears that Krishna was born in Mathura, and then he was brought to Vraj. But according to the concept of Gauriya Vaishnavas, it's completely illogical to say that Krishna appears in Mathura and then he goes to Vraj. You know, if Krishna is God of love, if he is attracted by love, if the love is the most important factor in our life, then why he would not appear in Vraj immediately? So our Acharya go to the great detailed studying of Srimad Bhagavatam, trying to prove that actually Krishna was born in Vraj as well, at the same time when he was born in Mathura. He was born from Mother Yashoda. Again and again and again, Shukadeva Goswami calls Krishna Gopika Sutta. He calls that he is Atmaja, that he is born from Nanda Maharaj. Again and again and again, he said he is born there. So how Krishna was born in Mathura, we know. It's a dramatic story, it's a very tragic story. How Krishna was born in Vrindavan, only our acharyas know, and only they see it with their transcendental vision. As much as Shukadeva Goswami, while he is explaining these leelas, he sees these leelas by his own eyes. It is explained by Sanātana Gosvami in his commentary to the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Then sometimes Shukadeva Goswami says Shuka Uvacha, and sometimes he is called Shri Shuka Uvacha. And when he is called Shri Shuka Uvacha, it means that, you know, specifically he says that in the 5th chapter of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, Shukadeva Goswami starts explaining Nandotsav, the beautiful festival which Nanda Maharaj celebrated in Vraj on the next day, on Navami day, tomorrow, of appearance of Krishna. And it is said, Shri Shuka Uvacha, and he starts explaining this, how Nanda was completely overjoyed when he heard that his son was born. So Sanātana Goswami says that he's called Shri Shuka Uvacha because he sees this festival. Not only he sees this festival, in his meditation, he takes part in this festival, and the signs of his taking part of this festival becomes visible in this body, and he becomes beautified by these signs. You know, during this festival of Nandotsava, the people of Vrindavan, they were throwing haldi and yogurt and cream and butter in each other. So Sanātana Goswami says, and this moment of time when Shukadeva Goswami starts explaining this Nandotsava, he enters into the Nandotsava of original Vraj and the spiritual Vraj, and he gets the marks of beautification of all these ornaments, and he becomes completely covered by yogurt. And you know, can you imagine this? Shukadeva Goswami is sitting, and all of a sudden the yogurt appears, and the cream and the butter appears there, and therefore he is Shri, therefore he is so beautiful at this moment of time, because he is transported in his meditation into the spiritual realm. So basically, this is what Jiva Goswami is doing. He is explaining what happened, which even Shukadeva Goswami didn't explain. Somehow or other, Shukadeva Goswami didn't explain what happened in Vraj in this moment of time. And, you know, this is a long story. I only have few minutes, so I will skip some parts of the story. But it's a beautiful story because Nanda Maharaj was a leader of the cowherd people for a long time. Actually, according to the Nandagram tradition, I spoke with one Goswami from Nandagram, from traditional lines of Goswamis who were serving Krishna, you know, hundreds and hundreds years back in Nandagram. They say that it's well known in Nandagram that Nanda Maharaj was 96 years old when Krishna was born. 96 years old. And Yashoda Mai was not much younger. So what happened in Vraj? For a long time, Nanda Maharaj and Yashoda Mai didn't have any children. And it was a source of their immense misery. They were loved dearly by all the people in Vraj, and all the people in Vraj, they were completely morose, seeing that their leader does not have an issue. They were, you know, his brothers, his elder brother. Nanda Maharaj was the middle brother. There were 5 brothers of Parjanya Maharaj, Upananda, Sunanda, Nanda, Abhinanda, and Nandana. So Nanda was the middle brother, and who was the best of all? It is said, Srila Jiva Goswami says that all the brothers, all the sons of Parjanya Maharaj were called Nanda. Abhinanda, Upananda, Sunanda, Nandana, and Nanda. They were all very joyful. But the best was Nanda. Nanda the middle, so much so that while retiring from the kingdom, Parjanya Maharaj, who was the king of this cowherd people, he wanted to give the throne, his position of the king, to the eldest son, Upananda. And he gave the Raj Tilak, he gave the crown to him and all the insignia of the king. And in the eyes of everyone, there was a big assembly. The people came from Mathura, you know, all the important people came, all the cowherd people came. Upananda, he took very gracefully and gratefully all the insignia of king from the hands of his father, and directly came to Nanda, who was sitting there completely oblivious and unaware, and put the crown on his head. And he said, you know, he's much better than me, let him become the king. And in this moment of time, everyone was joyful, and everyone said, Hari Bol, Hari Bol, Hari Bol. Please tell. I understand it's difficult to sit for 2 hours after. Anyway, so, but the point is that for a long time, and here is very important point of our story, for a long time they couldn't have any child. And then all the elders in this community, they came together and they decided, you know, in the Vedic culture, if you wanted to fulfill some desire, what you do? What is the method of fulfilling your desire in Vedic culture? Yagya. Yeah. You're true representatives of Vedic culture. So they all gathered together and they called Nanda Maharaj and they said, this is completely wrong, something goes wrong, we should do big yagya. We should invite the best brahmanas from everywhere, and the best brahmanas will do big yagya, and in this way our desire and your desire will be fulfilled. We love you so dearly. So they made this big arrangement. Everyone came and they sat at the yagya, and the best brahmanas, they were chanting the best mantras with the best of their ability. They pouring a lot of ghee into this, and fire was so big, and everyone was so beautiful, so joyful, and the only one who was not joyful was Nanda and Yashoda. And everything was so successful. Everything was extremely successful. Like now we're going to do some also yagya. Everything was successful, but the end result was 0. And the Nanda Maharaj sat together after yagya with Yashoda, and he asked her, what do you think? What was the reason why this yagya was not successful? The mantras were chanted properly, all the ingredients were the first class, the most pure, everything was so beautiful. Why it didn't work? And Yashoda didn't say anything. She just hung her head. And the Nanda Maharaj said, yes, I know and you know, because we want something which cannot be fulfilled through yagya. For a long time, he says, I see this extremely beautiful boy. He comes to me. Sometimes he pulls my dhoti. Sometimes it seems like he is right here with me. Sometimes I see him in a dream. Sometimes I hear his beautiful laughter. He is so beautiful. He is like Atasi flower. Atasi flower is some bluish flower, you know. And Yashoda says, yes, I see this boy too. And he cannot come through yagya. So while sitting in Kalsadnik together, they decide to do something very powerful and very effective. And this is the last thing which I will tell. I will not be able to tell anything else. But this is the secret. Because we are talking about two different ways of appearing the Lord in our life. One is the prison cell of the rules and regulations. Another one is this extreme greed. When you are so greedy to have the Lord that you see His vision, you almost see Him, you almost hear His laughter. And to solidify and to make successful your vow to achieve the Lord, you do something which is directly related with the Lord. And yagya is not the proper means to do it, because yagya is has completely different nature. So they decided to do different yagya. The yagya which they decided to do is a simple one. They decided to fast on Ekadashi. And just by 1 year of fasting on Ekadashi, without going through all these dramas, without going through all these austerities, just 1 year fasting on Ekadashi, completely properly, following all the rules and regulations. It's actually called Dvadashi Vrata, because Ekadashi Vrata is Ekadashi Vrata, but Dvadashi Vrata, when you follow the fast on Dashami, Ekadashi, properly follow all the rules and all Dvadashi. So at the end of this year, Krishna has come to the womb of Yashoda and ultimately was born on this day after being 8 months in her womb. So basically what I wanted to say, that there are two ways of practicing bhakti. One is Vaidhi Bhakti, which is necessary in the beginning, but at one point we have to develop the greed. And the greed comes when we hear how beautiful is the Lord. And when we hear how beautiful is the Lord, when we hear the beauty of his name and we experience this, then the greed comes. And that's why we chanted Nanda Nanda Nashtaka, which is describing the beauty of the Lord and his Leelas. Basically, this is something which I wanted to say. Thank you very much for your attention.